Hi everyone, welcome to Cancer Healing Journey Talks. Myself Sonali Modi from Community Outreach Team of ZenOnco.io and Love Heals Cancer. We guide cancer patients on adopting an integrative oncology treatment approach. We help them find the balance between medical treatment and complementary treatment approaches. And we help our patients with our team of oncologists, lab experts, nutritionists, and other healthcare professionals so that we can improve the treatment outcome for patients. We also help in connecting patients with other cancer warriors who have gone through this journey to address their queries. And we also share these inspirational journeys to motivate cancer patients on our platform. So firstly, I would like to introduce you to today's speaker, Ms. Tara Coyote. She's a cancer warrior. I'm happy that you're here with us today to share your story. So over to you, Tara. Please start with your introduction.
Thank you. So good to be here with all of you. So my name is Tara Coyote. I live in Kauai, Hawaii. I recently published a best-selling book called Grace, Grit, and Gratitude, A Cancer Thriver's Journey from Hospice to Full Recovery with the Healing Power of Horses. My story in brief, because I have quite a long story, is that I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer in September of 2016. For 2.5 years, I chose an all natural route of treatment, meaning just no chemo, surgery, radiation whatsoever. I was doing very well until a very stressful incident occurred in my life. And I had to move from Northern California to Hawaii and give up my work and sell my ranch where I taught equine facilitated learning, like equine therapy with horses, basically. And then the cancer ended up spreading throughout my body. It went from stage 3 to stage 4. In a period of many months, I was recommended to hospice. I had cancer in my lungs, my liver, my spine, my bones, my rib, and my hip. I was actively dying. I was in a lot of pain. I was walking with a cane because my left hip was breaking due to bone metastasis. I had so much cancer in my lungs that I couldn't even talk. I was coughing so much. I had to sleep sitting up for 2 months because I would be gagging and coughing. And at that point, when I was recommended to hospice, I had to face my fear of doing chemotherapy, which that's kind of a long story, which I share in my book, and I'm happy to share later on in this interview. But I ended up doing 9 months of chemotherapy. It was very difficult, but I got through it. During that time, my left hip broke due to the bone metastasis, and I had to get an emergency double hip surgery. I had to learn to walk again. And anyways, I finished treatment in February of 2020 with remarkable results. Ever since then, the cancer continues to shrink. The tumors continue to shrink my body. My blood is the blood of a healthy, normal person. And I just want to add too, I've always done the natural treatment. Even when I did chemotherapy, I was doing natural treatment and really building up my immune system to make my immune system strong. So that's my story in a nutshell. I'm very grateful to be alive. And I share it all in my book, like I said, Grace, Grit, and Gratitude, which is on Amazon.
Yes, we have seen that book and it's a lovely book. So definitely we'll go through your story through that book also. Yeah. So Tara, what were the initial symptoms before you got to know that you're diagnosed with breast cancer?
Right. Well, I have an interesting story because I have fibrocystic breasts, which means I tend to have lumps in my breast. And so I wasn't really taking care of myself properly. My best friend had been going through leukemia for 22 months, and I was one of her main caretakers. So I was very, very busy tending to her and caring for her. It was very draining physically and emotionally. I'm very glad I did it, but it was a lot. And so during that time, I wasn't really taking care of myself and paying attention to what was going on in my breast. And I was diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer a year after she died, almost exactly a year after she died. And so about 3 months before I was diagnosed, I started noticing a lump in my left breast that was becoming more and more prominent and more painful. And I thought, oh my goodness, I need to get this checked out. And I live in the United States, and sometimes it takes a while to get an appointment with insurance and all that. And so it took me a couple months to get it diagnosed. And when I was diagnosed, I found out it was stage 3. So just have to say, self-care is very important. If I was taking better care of myself during that time as caring for my friend, I probably would have noticed it a lot sooner.
Yeah. So can you share how this news was disclosed to you and your family?
Sure. You mean how did I tell my family when I found out about it?
How did you, like, when you heard this first time from your doctor, when you saw the reports, how shocked were you, and how, means when you told this to your family, how your family took this news?
Okay, thank you for clarifying. When I was first diagnosed, they had misdiagnosed me. So I thought it was stage 1, which still was scary, but they were like, well, the good news is it's stage 1. And then it turned out a few weeks after that, I found they had misdiagnosed me, which was very upsetting to find out that it was actually stage 3. So it was definitely shocking. I think for anybody receiving a cancer diagnosis, it's not easy, because all of a sudden you're faced with your death. You know, it's this, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? And so that was hard. And especially in light of my best friend had just died a year earlier. So I was still dealing with a lot of grief around that. So it was very overwhelming. Telling my family was also very hard, because I knew it would be difficult for them. I was young when I was diagnosed at 46, and you know, no one really expects a cancer diagnosis. I was living a very healthy life, besides depleting myself, taking care of my friend and eating great food. And so everybody was very shocked, my friends and family, when they found out I was diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, because, you know, I was kind of the poster child of living in a healthy way. So yeah, it was very difficult to tell them. And, you know, it's hard when you're in this place dealing with a cancer diagnosis, because not only are you dealing with your own emotions, you're also dealing with emotions of others around you and their shock and their whatever they may be feeling. So it's a tricky situation for sure.
Yes. So how did you face it?
How did I face it? Well, I talk about this in my book. A lot of the story in my book is about how my horses have helped me heal. So I was very fortunate at that point. Like I mentioned, I was running a horse retreat center in Northern California. So I help people heal with horses, basically. So I had these 4 amazing horses at the time, and it was so nice and comforting to be around them. They just brought a lot of relaxation, and so that was very helpful. But how I dealt with it is that I jumped into doing tons of research with my partner at the time. We watched a lot of documentaries and read a lot of books, and I talked to a lot of people about what I wanted to do for treatment, because what they wanted me to do was a pretty intense treatment, chemo, surgery, and radiation. And I had a lot of trauma around the standard form of treatment due to my best friend's death. So I dove into a lot of research into figuring out what was the best route of treatment for me, basically. And I decided I want to do natural treatment. So what I did really is I reached out to a lot of people. I did a lot of research and to really figure out, okay, so I have this situation. I have the stage 3 cancer diagnosis. What am I going to do about it? How will I find the support I need? And how will I choose the best path of treatment for myself? So I went into action mode.
Yeah. So as you said that you went through 9 months of chemotherapy, and we all know that chemotherapy is a very tough routine. So please share your experience and how you coped with it, and what all difficulties did you face during the treatment?
Yes, it was difficult. I ended up losing 20 pounds. I was in the hospital a few times and almost died. But like I said, I still continued doing my non-toxic forms of treatment, which help really keep my immune system strong. So I feel like this is one of the big reasons why I've done so well. Like I would do vitamin and mineral infusions, IVs, lots of herbal supplements. You know, when I was doing chemotherapy, I didn't feel well, especially in the first 3 months of doing AC, that's what it's called. And that's when I lost 20 pounds, and I could only eat certain things, pretty bland things, because I was feeling sick a lot. So I was just trying to get in my body whatever I could, as far as eating whatever nutrients I could. And so I kept up with my natural healing repertoire. I did vitamins. And I want to say too, you know, there's so much emphasis in healing cancer on the medicine, which is very, very important. But the mental part of healing is, I feel like, equally or more important in a way. So I ended up doing a lot of deep healing, you know, looking at what relationships were toxic and didn't quite serve me in the most transformational manner. So I ended up doing a lot of therapy and really looking at myself with what worked and what didn't, and making those changes that were toxic to me. And I ended up working a lot in my mind and really seeing myself healing. So I think that's a big part of my healing, as well as the whole mental paradigm. So I talk a lot about it in my book, and there's a lot of resources. I have a website with lots of resources people could tap into. So I just did what I could. I rested when I needed to, when I was tired. You know, I had to ask for help through my community and friends. A lot of my friends and community really stepped up to help me, and I was very grateful for that. And I actually grew a lot. It was very difficult, but it was very beautiful too. And I transformed quite a bit during that period.
Yes. So that was a tough period for everyone who goes through this phase. So from where did you get your support system apart from your family?
My friends really stepped up. Part of my journey, like I said, I was in California and then I was in Hawaii, but both times, like, I had a very large community of support. A lot of my support came from people online. There's a very strong cancer community online. And when I first was diagnosed, I started sharing publicly through blogging and making videos. So I knew a lot of people going through cancer around the world. So there was a lot of support that way. I also had a healing circle of people that we would connect on phone or on Zoom, and we would come together, very close friends of mine, maybe 10 of us, and they would do prayers for me, and I would share, and they would give me support. And that was very powerful. My partner I was with, he gave me a lot of support. And I gotta say, my animals, you know, my book is all about that healing with horses. So my dog, my animals, my horse, my horses, my cats, and there was a lot of support in a lot of ways. And I have to say too, when I moved back home to Hawaii, I know you live in India, it's very far away from Hawaii, but there's a lot of healing power in nature that's very supportive. So just going out into nature can be very potent, to go sit by a stream or the ocean or a tree, and just being out in nature and getting away from the busyness of humanity, that can be very helpful too.
Yes. So what do you think are the importance of support groups when anybody needs help or so?
Definitely. Support groups are wonderful if you have access to it. And like I said, there's a lot that can be done online with communities. Like, I created a secret cancer group on Facebook, and that was great to connect with people there. But yeah, if you're able to meet in person with people, that is incredible. I never had that where I lived, but I think that's wonderful. But however you can get support, whether it's calling a friend up or like a Zoom call or even texting. I think support can come in many different ways. And the great thing about technology these days is you can connect with people from a distance and you don't have to be in the same room. So I think just as far as support, a lot of times, I know especially with people going through breast cancer, people having breast cancer, we tend to be caregivers and care for others. And so it's very hard to reach out and ask for support. And that was a big thing for me. And I know it's a big thing for a lot of people, but it was very powerful for me to reach out for support and know that people wanted to support me and that, they loved me and they cherished me and they wanted me to live and they wanted to give to me. And so that was a huge lesson about learning that I deserve to have love and care and not to just be the caregiver for others, that they could care for me too, if that makes sense.
Yes. So what do people need to expect when they get this cancer type?
Oh, well, that's a very broad question. You mean as far as treatment or as far as emotional context, or?
As far as treatment along with emotional content.
Right. Okay. Well, I guess I'll address the emotional context first. Like I mentioned, when somebody's given a cancer diagnosis, it's almost like we have this idea that we're immortal. And I know you're from India and you guys have a different relationship to death than we have in North America. I've been to India and I really envy your culture because death is more interwoven into it than it is in the United States. But for Western society, we have a great fear of death. And so when cancer comes knocking on your door, whether it's your own diagnosis or somebody you know in your family or your friends, it's almost a sense of like, oh my gosh, this person or I may not live forever. And that can be a hard wake-up call, but it's kind of good in a way because we all are going to die. So we might as well come to accept that we will die. So yes, facing fears about death is a big one. That's kind of the number one thing that seems to happen. And I would say to like really looking at the changes you need to make to create a healthier lifestyle, whether that's diet, whether that's friendships and family, whether that's your job, whether that's where you live. That has been a really key piece of healing for me and for other people. As far as treatment, yeah, that can be a lot. I mean, it's really diving into the medical system, whatever path of healing you choose, and navigating that. And I would say it's really important to have support. If you go through the standard route of treatment, chemotherapy, radiation surgery, is to really, like you were mentioning before, reach out to support and who can be there for you, who can bring you food if you're not feeling well, who can pick you up from appointments, and really ask for help because you definitely need it at some point, and know that you're worthy of receiving help. And yeah, just plan time, spaciousness too, on those days when you have treatment or the days afterwards, to rest and not put pressure on yourself. If you have kids, have help with childcare. If you have animals, have help with animal care, whatever you might need help with, basically, to really create time and space for you to be in that process, because it requires a lot of surrender. That's really what I learned. I'm definitely like a do type of person. I like to accomplish, kind of type A. And so for me, when I was not feeling well, and I still get shots for cancer treatment once a month. So a few days a month, I'm knocked out. And so I have to have help with whatever I need help with at that time, and just surrender into the process of not feeling well. And also too, I want to mention the emotional component about that, because when I was going through the hard treatment of chemotherapy, there was usually a lot of hard emotions that would come up, and which was usually processing the past. So I had to just surrender into that and let myself cry or whatever it may be. And then once I let myself feel those emotions, I would feel a lot better. So there's a lot of surrendering that needs to happen. And ultimately, it's a beautiful process, but it requires really letting yourself go into the process.
Yes. So what do you think is the importance of self-examination and why?
Self-examination, yes. I think that's a great thing. That's something I did not do. But yes, if you do self-examination, you can prevent a diagnosis. So like, for example, when I was saying, when my friend was sick and I was caring for her, if I had been checking my breasts regularly, I probably would have noticed, oh, wait, there is a lump here that's not going away. So I definitely advocate that. A lot of women say to check themselves once a month, that can prevent a further diagnosis down the line. So yes, that is something I did not do. And in retrospect, it would have been a good thing.
Yes, definitely. And did you make any lifestyle changes during or after the treatment?
I did. I mean, I always ate pretty healthy, so that wasn't a really big change. A lot of people go through cancer and they're eating a lot of junk food and they have to switch to eating healthier food. That wasn't my case. I always ate really healthy, but I did make lifestyle changes because when I did the natural form of treatment, it was pretty much like a full-time job of like, okay, what do I need to do to heal my body? So I still did work. I did horse workshops with people. So I still did do that, but not as much. I condensed my schedule for work, and I really had to focus on my own self-care at that point, because I knew that if I didn't, I would probably die. So yeah. And then I also, like I mentioned, I looked at different relationships and examined what was healthy and wasn't healthy. So, and I did also make a huge lifestyle change when the cancer spread to be out through my body. And I moved from Northern California, and I sold my ranch and my business, and I let go of 2 horses, which was very difficult. And I moved back home to Hawaii, where I have a much more relaxed lifestyle. So yeah, I made some pretty dramatic changes. And I have to say that moving to be in a place where it wasn't so expensive to live in and where I didn't have so much work to do, which was a huge, huge benefit to my healing.
Yes. So what all things helped you in your recovery? Like, emphasize on the integrative oncology treatment aspect of the plan.
The medicine that helped me, basically?
Yes, medicine that helped you, or the integrative oncology part, you can emphasize on that.
Right. I never saw an integrative oncologist, because when I lived in Northern California and in Hawaii, I didn't have accessibility to that. But if you do, I think that's really wonderful. I lived in small communities, so I didn't have that. So, but I think that's wonderful to meet with doctors who can really address more non-toxic forms of healing while you're doing standard treatment. Because when you're doing chemotherapy, what it does is it really hits your immune system in a hard way. It's basically annihilating the cancer cells and your healthy cells, which is why you can become sick, why you lose weight and all that. So my approach was saying, okay, so while I'm hitting my immune system hard, I want to give my immune system healthy vitamins so I can still remain strong while I'm doing chemo. So like I said, I did weekly vitamin and mineral infusions. On my website, I have a resource section where I share everything I did. And I actually have a video on YouTube. It's a 30-minute video where I share everything I did during chemotherapy. But I did a plethora of vitamins. Like I said, I ate really healthy. There was lots and lots of supplements I took. I just basically did whatever I could to keep me healthy and to keep my body strong. So I think integrative oncologists are great because, a lot of times, and I don't want to knock the standard form of treatment, but they're really focusing on treating, they're not they're not focused on treating the cause. They're more focused on treating the effect. So I believe that integrative oncologists, they can look deeper into what's going on with you and like what is the cause of the cancer and really address that. There's a lot that can be done through looking at blood tests and really analyzing, okay, so what's going on with your iron? What's going on with all these various elements? What do you need? Do you need more vitamin D? Because there's a lot of vitamins that cancer patients are deficient in to begin with. So really making sure you have that will ensure your body has better chance of recovering. So yeah, I highly recommend seeing an integrative oncologist or naturopath or whatever you have access to. I also want to mention I did acupuncture, Chinese acupuncture all throughout my treatment too, and I still do it. It's been 5 years, so once a week or so I see an acupuncturist, and I really think, you know, these old forms of medicine, you know, you're in India where there's Ayurveda, these medicines are very profound and they've been around way longer than standard medicine. So there's a lot that can be said for tapping into those forms of healing that unfortunately are not addressed by standard medicine.
And can you please share some of your experiences and thoughts about your caregivers during your treatment?
Yes, it's really important to have caregivers that are healthy to be around. If you're around a caregiver, which, you know, is causing stress and you're arguing with and you're feeling just tension around, I would say find somebody to be around who can promote a feeling of safety and peacefulness within yourself, because that's going to affect you when you are not feeling well mentally and physically from chemotherapy. That will affect your healing. So I really advocate you to find people to help you that are caring and patient and will be gentle with you when you're not feeling well, because we're energetic beings and we all affect each other. So that was a big discovery of mine too. When I was going through chemotherapy, it was very difficult, but my partner, my boyfriend and I of 4 years split up. And that was a very painful experience. But what I came to realize during cancer treatment was that this is really not a healthy environment for me to be around. And so I requested to have more space from him, and he moved out. And then we eventually broke up, and it was very difficult, but it was ultimately a very healthy move for my own healing, because and we're still good friends now, which I'm really grateful for, but I needed more space for my healing. I discovered that it wasn't the healthiest relationship to be in. So I think sometimes too, cancer treatment can be a blessing to really figure out what is healthy for your healing and what is not. So
and
yeah,
what you
finding
actually need.
what you need. Yes, exactly. Yes.
Yeah. So, you know, every crisis in life teaches you a certain lesson. So can you share your life lessons that cancer journey has taught you?
Yes, that's a good question. Cancer has really been a blessing. And, you know, I know some people might not agree with me, but my own experience with it is that it's really made me realize how precious life is and how precious my life is. Before, like say 10 years ago, I had this idea of like, okay, I'm going to live till I'm 70, I'm 80. And I was not as aware and grateful for life as I am now. Because now, you know, I'm 51 years old. I'm doing really well with my healing. You know, I'm grateful to be alive, but I know my life expectancy is not that long. And I don't dwell on that. I focus on healing and I see myself as healthy, but it really makes me aware of, you know, every interaction I have with friends or family, and try to really choose intentionally what I do with each day, like what brings me joy. And not that I'm perfect at this, and I'm reminding myself this as I tell you this, but it's really made me wake up to how precious my life is, basically. And And it's really also made me tap into a deep sense of self-love and self-care that I never had before. Because like I said, I've always been the caregiver, and I am still a caregiver, but it's made me realize, oh, I have to put myself first. You know, like there's that metaphor of being on an airplane, and if you're with a child, you have to put the air mask on yourself first rather than your child, so you can care for your child. So it's really made me step up to this profound sense of self-care for myself. But I'm still working on that one. It's not an easy one.
Yes. So like, what was your first reaction when your reports were finally saying that you are cancer-free now?
Yes, I was very, very happy. I was elated because I had gone through this crazy experience of almost dying a few times, being recommended to hospice. And when I still continue to get my great test results, like every time I get a scan and I find out the cancer continues to shrink. So just to clarify, I am not cancer free. So I still have cancer in my body, but it continues to shrink. So I have learned to live in a healthy way with cancer rather than think of fighting it. I really work on my mind frame. So yeah, every time I get a scan or great results, I'm so happy because it's a sense of like, wow, I keep defeating the odds. And it's a sense of celebration for my life. So yeah, it's wonderful because, you know, I went to the edge. I was so close to dying. And sadly, I've had so many friends die from cancer. So yeah, just very, very, very grateful to be alive.
Yes. You know, gratitude seems to be the biggest strength to fight this kind of situation. So what were you ever so grateful for that made you always calm down after thinking or revisiting that memory?
What am I grateful for? I'd say number one, my horses. That's a theme in my book, in my life. I feel like my horses are incredible healing forces for me, and my animals. Just being alive and nature, you know, nature is very healing. My friends, my family, just like you said, that there's an important, very, very important element of gratitude that can come in. And I still work on this every day, of course, because the mind is a muscle. It's like going to the gym. You have to keep exercising it. If you stop, then it'll slide back into patterns. So, and I'm having to work on this now because my mom is not well. She's very ill. And so it's challenging for me. So I have to keep coming around to gratitude now to think like, okay, this is a very difficult situation with my family now, but what do I have to be grateful for? Like, okay, I can still spend time with her, or there's still beauty around me, you know, like just even a very simple thing of like looking out the window and looking at a tree and admiring the beauty of it, or a beautiful piece of art, or, you know, jewelry, whatever it may be, is to switch your mind around and find something to be grateful for. Because it's so easy for the mind to go into negativity and complain and focus on what isn't working. But then to turn around and focus on what is working, that's shifting your whole mind frame. So
Yes.
yeah, it takes a lot of inner work, but it's important.
Yeah, positivity is the biggest thing that one needs to have during such times.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
Yeah. Can you share an act of kindness that you will never forget?
If from somebody else, you mean? Or?
Yeah. An act of kindness from somebody else, or if somebody has ever shown you that you will never forget, that will always stay as a part of your happy memory for the rest of your life.
That's a beautiful question. Yes, I will share. And this goes into support. I have a dear friend named Eugene. He's about 20 years older than me, and he is a remarkable person. I call us cancer thrivers rather than cancer survivors. So he's a cancer thriver. He almost died 25 years ago from a rare form of blood cancer. And I met him many years ago after my friend died, and he's a very profound, wise man. I think of him as like my big brother in a way. And when I was going through the hard part of cancer, he was just there solidly for me. He lived in California. I was in Hawaii at this time, but I would text him when I was going through the hardest parts, because when you're going through chemo, there's a lot of hard mental aspects. Like, I thought of it as facing demons in a way, where I had to really face my demons, and it ultimately turned out to be healing. But Eugene was really there for me. You know, I could reach out to him because he understood what I was going through. Not everybody understood. You don't get it unless you've been through it. So an act of kindness was him just really showing up for me during my hardest time. So yeah, I'm very, very grateful for that.
And how do you feel more positive?
How do I feel more positive? You mean like, how do I switch my mind to be more positive?
Yes. Yeah, mind, your surroundings, the situation. Often there are some situations in which we tend to go and think something negative. But how do you like motivate yourself on such days and spread yourself with positivity?
Right. Well, I think I think of it as like a switch in your brain. So say, for example, I'm just going to show an example. Your car breaks down somewhere and it's very stressful, obviously. So I can choose to think, if my car breaks down, like, oh my gosh, my car is broken down. This is horrible. I can't get to wherever I'm going. I have to pay to get it repaired, whatever it may be. So I can choose to go down that train of thought, or I can find the positive in it. Like, okay, well, at least I'm not broken down on a highway. At least I'm at a beautiful place where I'm not in danger of getting run into from other traffic. And, you know, hey, maybe it's an opportunity for me to take a break and just be present with the experience. And maybe I didn't really want to go to that appointment anyways, wherever I was going. So I think of it as like a switch in the brain. You know, you can either choose to rise above a situation that's challenging, or like you said, you can go down into it and be more negative. A big part, like when I was stuck in bed for a month after having double hip surgery, that was really, really hard for me because I'm a very active person, and I had to learn to walk again. I had to have help with everything from everybody, you know, even going to the bathroom, I need to have help with for a certain period of time. And that was very hard. But have you heard of Joe Dispenza?
No, I haven't heard.
No. Okay, no, it's all good. He's an amazing person. He's got an incredible healing story. He's written books. One of his books is called You Are the Placebo. He's got a YouTube channel. He does teachings. But I really tuned into his work to access my healing potential within my body and to switch my mind frame. His books are very uplifting, his meditations. And I really tuned into a lot of people who do work like that to switch my mind frame, because it's so easy to be caught up in complaining and feeling bad and like a victim. So, and I see that, unfortunately, a lot of people with cancer, it's really easy to become a victim and feel sorry for yourself. But it can be a very powerful experience to rise above it and be like, okay, this is a choice. I can either feel horrible about the experience, or I can find the beauty in it. So that's answering your question, I think, in a very multifaceted, roundabout way.
Yes. So what is that one thing that you want to share with all those who are still fighting this battle?
I would say we humans are very strong. And what I discovered and what I see with other people going through cancer is that, and I'll just speak directly to you, you are so much stronger than you think you are. There is a great well of strength that lies within all of us. And having cancer is an opportunity to tap into that well of strength to really do some profound healing. So I would really encourage you to take that opportunity, because I can promise you, the more you access that, the better you will heal. Because cancer is really an opportunity. It's not easy. I'm not saying it's easy, but to do some powerful growth psychologically, physically, and all elements of your being. So I would encourage you to keep going, reach out for help. Know your self-care is so important, and that, to really access that power of healing that we all have within us.
And what are the things that you appreciate or enjoy about yourself?
Gosh, I can almost find reasons for other people. It's hard about myself. No, I'm just kidding. I'm a very caring person and very loving. That's funny. No one's asked me that for a while. It makes me uncomfortable.
Often we get embarrassed, often we get nervous when we are asked something about ourselves. Tell me about yourself when we are nervous. That happens.
I know, you're a good interviewer. You're getting to the heart of the matter here. I'm a really hard worker. If I put my mind to something, I could accomplish great things. Like writing my book was very difficult, but I did it. And I'm very proud of myself for that. It's a huge accomplishment. I'm very sensitive and empathetic, and I can care deeply for others and kind of tune into how they're feeling and help them. There you go. You put me on the spot. I think I'll end there.
Yes. So
I'm creative. There you go.
So one thing you are proud of about yourself?
One thing I'm proud of. I think I try really hard at whatever I put my mind towards. I work really hard. I'm kind of like unstoppable, and I can wear myself out because I work so hard, and that's, the dark side of working hard. But that I could, if I put my mind at a goal or a task, even though it's very difficult, I can usually accomplish it.
Yes. So if you have to sum up your journey in one sentence, then what would that be?
Okay, give me a moment here. I would say a journey of facing shadows, discovering self-love, and finding incredible strength.
Wow, that's wonderful.
You have very creative questions here. I've been interviewed a lot, but haven't had questions like this. Kudos to you.
Yeah. And how do you relax or calm down yourself? Whenever you are in a tough situation, how do you relax your mind, and how do you get to be more creative on such things?
Let's see. I will spend time by myself. I really need time to myself and quiet, just to kind of diffuse other people's energies or stressful situations. That's really important for me, just to have kind of a cocoon of silence at times, to step away from people, because I'm so sensitive. I tend to be affected by other people. Being with animals, I have 3 cats and a dog and 2 horses. That's very healing. That's very comforting for me to be around my animals. Like I said, being in nature. I love reading and writing, and also sometimes too, if I find that I'm it's hard for me to get out of the certain stressful mind situation, like to watch a funny movie or TV show can be helpful, just to get my mind out of a situation. And also reaching out to a friend too. I don't want to, that's really important, to reach out for help and support, and just talk to a friend, whether you're complaining or, venting or crying, just really knowing that there are people there for you, and utilizing that if needed.
Yes. So what is the pivotal turning point in your life?
There's been many. I think since we're talking about cancer, I'll go to that because that's what's really relevant. It was in the spring of 2019 when I was not doing well health-wise and when I was recommended to hospice, and I was facing my fear of doing chemotherapy, which was terrifying to me because I had to face a lot of trauma around my best friend's death. And I didn't know if I wanted to live. I didn't know if I was strong enough to do chemotherapy. I was terrified. I was even terrified to go to the hospital because there were so many traumatic memories of being with my friend there for months, of seeing her almost die. And so I had to really look at, do I want to live or do I want to die? Because I was dying, I could feel my body starting to fade, and I knew that's what was going to happen. So that was a very pivotal moment of deciding I wanted to live. And people asked me, well, like, what was your decision point? And my son at the time was 26 years old. And my driving force was like, okay, I'm going to face my fear of chemotherapy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to just go forward. I really thought about, I don't want him to lose his mom at a young age. He's doing so well. And how painful it would be to have your mom die at the age of 26 or 27. It brings up tears talking about this because sadly, I've had so many friends die who've had kids. And, it's just like, that's what the most heartbreaking thing is like seeing these young moms with kids and just how hard it is for them. So yeah, it really, that was a driving force of being like, okay, I'm going to face my fears because of my son. And yeah.
Yes. So like, how do you manage your personal and professional life?
While going through cancer treatments?
Yes.
Or just
how did you manage? You were a working professional, like while you were going through the treatment or so, because you have been to the treatment for years. So that means you were a working professional. So how did you manage your personal and professional life during those times?
Yes. Well, when I was doing chemotherapy, I was not working because it was just taking everything out of me. I definitely took a break because I had to. Later on, during the later forms of chemotherapy, I could work a little bit, but in those first few months, I was definitely so knocked out and my body was going through a hard time. But so like I said, it's been 5 years. So I would just find balance where I would take the time I needed to for my own self-care during treatment. If I was knocked out or I needed to rest, I would rest, I would get help. And then I would discover, okay, so these are the days of the week where I feel okay and I can catch up with things and I can have some clients or I can teach a workshop or, write my book, whatever it may be. So it was really discerning, okay, these are the days of the week where I don't feel well. Like even now, like I said, I do shots for cancer treatment once a month. So I'm knocked out for about 3 days or so. So I don't plan anything during those days. I get somebody to come help me with my animals. And I'll just know that I'm just going to lay in bed. I'll watch movies. I'll read a book. And just to take that time, I need to rest and heal. So it's just finding balance and really looking at, okay, well, do I need to have somebody to bring me food? But yeah, finding those times where I know, okay, like, so on Monday and Tuesday of the week, I'll feel good. So I can schedule some clients then or do some work then. Oh, it is possible to do, but it just takes a little bit of navigation and to not push yourself too. Because a lot of times when you're going through treatment, you really need that time to rest and recover. That's super important for your healing.
Yes. So what do you think are the stigmas attached to cancer and the importance of awareness for it?
What was the last part of that question? I heard the stigmas part.
And the importance of awareness for it.
Oh, okay. Yeah, there is a lot of stigma around cancer, and that's a big reason why I've been sharing my journey publicly, because there is so much around it. And I saw that with my friend too, who was very sick. Like I mentioned before, there's a lot of fear of death associated with cancer. So when I was first diagnosed, you know, there's people, I walk into a grocery store and they hadn't seen me, but they knew I was diagnosed, and they would break down crying. And I knew it was because, oh, they're thinking I am going to die. So there's a lot of stigmas associated with, like, okay, you get cancer and you will die, you know, but that's, you know, yes, you may die. That's true. I'm not going to say that's not true, but there are people that are defeating the odds and are healing and are living. There's incredible stories out there. And, you know, like my story is one of those. And there's so many stories. There's the book Radical Remission. I highly recommend people read. It's about people defying the odds and tapping into that mind frame around healing. So yeah, the stigmas around that is death, of course. Another one is, if you have cancer, you're going to look unhealthy. You know, a lot of people look at me now. I mean, when I was going through chemotherapy, yes, I looked like I was going through cancer treatment, but you know, I still have cancer in my body, but I look healthy, and people don't know I'm going through cancer unless I tell them, or unless they know my story. So you can look healthy and go through cancer. You know, it's when the cancer progresses that people often look unhealthy or going through intense treatment. Yeah, I guess one other stigma is that it's a very alone experience. People tend to feel very isolated during the experience. It can be very lonely. But that's why I really advocate people to reach out and to know there is community support. So I guess probably those three, but yeah, the death part is the biggest one.
Yes.
That
So when did you believe that you can beat this disease, or was this belief always there with you?
It was kind of always there. Even when I was first diagnosed, I was like, oh, I'm not going to let this stop me. I can rise above this. Definitely when my body was breaking down and I was in a lot of pain, that was the hardest, where I was like, oh, wow, this thing is starting to take over me and really affect my life in a hard way. So it took a lot of inner strength. That was definitely the hardest part of my life and my treatment, is when I had to do chemotherapy and really get the mental strength to do it. So I really had to tap into, like I mentioned before, this deep well of strength and know that I can do this, I can rise above it. And like I mentioned, we humans, we have a very potent healing force within us to tap into. And so to find that within yourselves, however that may be. A lot of people, you know, they have a strong religious faith, and that's a beautiful thing to tap into. You know, I don't have that so much. I'm more like spiritual in that realm, but whatever you have, that'll give you the strength to access that, whether it's religion, spirituality, you know, nature, whatever gives you that strength, family, friends, to utilize that, because that'll help you get through the hard times.
Yes. So your story is really very inspiring, Tara. So yeah,
thank
you for your valuable time, and it was lovely having you here today on this session. And I hope this session really motivates people out there who have been traveling or who have traveled to this cancer journey. So once again, thank you so much for sharing your story with us.
Thank you so much. It's an honor to be here and to share.